If this is you sitting there, replaying every word, every glance, every slight that left you feeling smaller than you are, then you already know the weight of it. Maybe this feels familiar. The H of seeing her roll her eyes at you when you speak, the subtle smirk when she dismisses your opinions, the way her contempt hangs in the air like a storm cloud you can't escape. You've tried reasoning, tried bending, tried showing her patience, kindness, even loyalty, and still nothing shifts. It's like no matter what you do, you can't break through that wall of disrespect she's built around herself. Maybe you've caught yourself asking questions you don't want to admit out loud. Why doesn't she appreciate me? Did I do something wrong? Why does it feel like I'm invisible, or worse, a punchline? You've felt the sting of her sarcasm, the coldness in her tone, the quiet judgment she thinks you don't notice, and the worst part, that gnawing frustration inside you, the part that knows you deserve better, but feels trapped in a loop of humiliation and doubt. Maybe you've stayed silent when you should have spoken up, swallowed your pride when you should have drawn a line, convinced yourself patience would fix what contempt has already rooted into her behavior. And now, late at night, when the world is quiet and there's nothing to distract you from the truth, you wonder, can she ever regret what she's done? Can she ever see the value of what she's taken for granted? The question that keeps twisting in your chest isn't just about her, it's about you. How do you make her realize, in a way she can't ignore, that her actions have consequences? Most men get this situation wrong because they let emotion dictate their actions. They react from a place of anger, confusion, or hurt, and in doing so, they feed the very contempt they want to eliminate. Maybe you've tried arguing, explaining, or pleading, thinking that if you just talk enough, she'll see your worth. That's the trap. Contempt is never defeated by trying to earn approval or convince someone of your value. It's defeated by standing grounded in your own. Here's what most guys miss. There are two core masculine principles at play here: presence and unshakable self-respect. Presence isn't about dominating her or forcing attention. It's about showing up as a man who cannot be moved by her disrespect. When you embody presence, you're calm, composed, and consistent. You don't overact. You don't chase. You don't lower yourself to the level of contempt. She notices because what you're showing her isn't desperation. It's stability, strength, and quiet command. The second principle, unshakable self-respect, means you don't allow anyone to make you feel small. You set invisible boundaries that cannot be crossed, and you make it clear through your actions, not your words, that contempt will never define your life or your happiness. Most men think they must fight, debate, or win her respect. The truth is, you already possess it. You just need to act like it consistently and without apology. When you internalize these principles, everything shifts. She can no longer ignore the contrast between a man who reacts, who bends, who pleads, and a man who stands firm, grounded, and unconcerned with her games. That's when respect begins to emerge, and eventually regret follows naturally, not because you forced it, but because you simply refuse to be diminished. He sits at the edge of the couch, the dim light casting shadows across his hands, fingers drumming nervously on his knees. The room is quiet, but the silence is loud, thick with everything left unsaid. He remembers her smirk across the kitchen table last night, the subtle tilt of her head that said, "You're not worth my time." He can feel it again, the pinch in his chest, the slow burn of humiliation and anger twisting together. He thinks, why do I even bother? The words float in his mind unspoken, heavy. He remembers the countless times he tried to explain, to reason, to show her that he cares, and how each attempt seemed to vanish into thin air, dismissed with a scoff or a look that made him question himself. The apartment smells faintly of coffee and the ghost of her perfume, and for a moment, he hates that he notices it, hates that her presence lingers even in absence. He closes his eyes, breathing slowly, forcing himself to feel the tension without reacting to it. Not this time, he thinks. I will not give her this power over me. The memory of her contempt, the words she threw carelessly, the subtle judgments that cut deeper than any argument. He lets them wash over him, but he doesn't grasp them, doesn't feed them. Instead, he focuses on the calm in his chest, the unshakable truth of his own value. When he opens his eyes, the world hasn't changed, but he has. There's a quiet strength in the set of his shoulders, a steadiness in his gaze. The thought creeps in unbidden, and it makes him almost smile. She will see it. She will feel the weight of her own dismissiveness. She will know that she underestimated the man sitting quietly, unmoved and unbroken. And when that moment comes, he won't need to say a word. Most men believe that contempt is something you fight with words, with explanations, with proving yourself over and over. That's false. Contempt doesn't disappear because you argue louder or bend further. It disappears because you stop giving it power. Stop chasing her respect. Stop begging for approval. Respect is earned by showing it to yourself first. Some men think, if I just keep giving, she'll finally see my value. That's another lie. Giving without boundaries only teaches her that your worth is negotiable, that her contempt is acceptable. Real power comes when your presence is calm, grounded, and unwavering. When you stop performing for her validation, suddenly she notices what she lost. And here's the one that cuts deepest. You've been telling yourself, I need her to care to feel whole. That's a trap that leaves men weak and resentful. You are already whole. She can't create your value, only highlight it if she chooses. The moment you embrace that, everything changes. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. Your respect can't be borrowed. It must be owned. Contempt dies in the presence of a man who cannot be shaken. It's not about making her hurt. It's about making yourself unmovable. And when you do, her contempt fades and her regret grows, not because you forced it, but because she finally sees the man who was always there, steady, strong, and untouchable. This is what the 1% Headman understands. Contempt is never a reflection of his value. It's a reflection of her own limits, insecurities, and inability to recognize it. He doesn't waste energy trying to convince, to prove, or to chase approval. He knows that the moment he leans into need, he loses the only thing that commands respect, his unshakable self. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He doesn't argue, he doesn't manipulate, he doesn't react to every slight. Instead, he embodies a calm authority that speaks louder than any words. He shows up grounded, consistent, and unconcerned with whether she's watching. His energy is magnetic because it is anchored in certainty, not desperation. She can feel it. She notices it. And eventually, it hits her. She has underestimated the man she tried to dismiss. The 1% Headman understands that his life, his purpose, and his peace are non-negotiable. He doesn't build his happiness on a recognition or apology. Instead, he focuses on his growth, his standards, and his direction. His confidence isn't loud or showy. It's quiet, steady, and irresistible. He doesn't need to make her regret anything. Her regret is the natural consequence of his unwavering presence. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't seek permission. He simply shows up fully as himself every single day. That is the mindset shift most men never make. Contempt doesn't crumble under argument. It crumbles under unshakable self-respect. And once you adopt that, once you live from that truth, you step into a version of yourself that can't be dismissed, overlooked, or diminished. You become the standard she can't ignore, and the regret she feels isn't manufactured. It's inevitable. He's standing in the middle of his apartment, phone untouched on the counter, the words unsent, the messages unread. The room is quiet, but inside, a storm has finally begun to settle. For the first time, he notices the tension leaving his shoulders, the tight knot in his chest unraveling. It's not her reaction that matters, it's him. A thought slips in, simple, undeniable, I am enough. I always have been. The contempt that used to sting now feels like a shadow fading at noon. He remembers the man he was before he let her dismissal define him. The man who had vision, drive, and pride before he ever sought her approval. He realizes he has been waiting for something external to validate him, when all along the truth has been inside. In that quiet, he smiles without thinking. There's a weight lifted, a clarity sharpened. He doesn't need to explain. He doesn't need to chase. His presence, steady and unshakable, is enough. And in that instant, he feels it. The quiet power of a man who no longer bends to contempt, who no longer waits for recognition, who remembers his own value in full. He doesn't just stop waiting. He begins to live again. And in living, he knows she will feel what she ignored. The contempt she showed was never yours to fix. It was never a reflection of your worth. It was a mirror of her own blindness. You don't earn respect by chasing it, or by arguing, or by proving yourself. You earn it by standing still, grounded in your own value, calm in the face of disregard. Every slight she threw, every dismissive glance, only illuminated the strength you already carried. And when you finally stop bending to her games, when you finally remember who you are, she can't help but see it, and that is when regret finds her. Respect is never given, it is always recognized.